To say Donald Trump has stirred things up globally is a bit of an understatement now, isn't it? Greenlanders go to the polls today. The opposition party supporting Donald Trump, not to make Greenland part of the United States, but to leave Denmark and join the United States in a defense pact, seem to be doing well in the polls. We'll see how that election comes out. That's just the latest. North of the border, Mark Carney is the prime minister designate for Canada. Here's a guy who was never elected to anything, all right? He's a citizen of the UK, of Ireland, and of Canada, and they want to talk about democracy, apparently. Thomas J. DiLorenzo is the president of the Mises Institute, a former professor of economics at Loyola University in Maryland, and a longtime member of the senior faculty of the Mises Institute. Sir, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
All right, so let's look north of the border. Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of England, former governor of the Bank of Canada. This guy is, you know, he's a globalist. He's what they've always wanted. He's like Justin Trudeau, it looks like, only potentially worse, if that's possible. What do you make of it?
Yeah, well, he sounds like he's probably another graduate of the George Soros School of Politics.
Yeah.
In the World Economic Forum crowd. And, you know, when President Trump threw out this trial balloon about annexing Canada and making Trudeau the governor, I looked up some statistic that said 45% of Canadians identify as socialists. And so, yeah, that's the last thing in the world we would need in America is to have 18 million socialists enter our country, as far as that goes. But those are the kind of people who apparently like a tool of big business, which is kind of odd, isn't it? They call themselves socialists, and they keep electing as their prime ministers these globalist tools of big business that's anything but a populist.
How about this, though, Thomas? You've probably seen this attorney from Alberta leading this entourage to Washington, D.C. to say Alberta would like to become a state of the United States. How about Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan? We'll take those three. The prairie provinces loaded with natural resources, farmland, oil, shale, all of it in spades, north of Montana and north of Minnesota, of course, and the Dakotas. It would be a terrific piece of real estate. Are those sorts of things even possible? I mean, the charge is being led by native Albertans today to come to the United States. What do you say to that?
Countries of Canada is several different countries, just like America is. I think we should trade them California. They can have California, and we'll take Western Canada. That's where the more productive people are. In Ottawa is where the parasites are. You know, the national capital, just like our national capital.
Right.
And so that's the super productive part of Canada. That'd be a good trade, California for the rest, at least Southern California.
So what about Pierre Poilievre? He is the conservative leader, a guy that most people believe will be the winner in the next round of elections. Now, their margin has shrunk from about 25 points to about 10 points for the Conservatives since Donald Trump made those comments about Justin Trudeau being the governor and so forth. But still, double-digit lead for the Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre. What do you think is going to happen in Canada? I don't think that this Mark Carney is going to be around very long. I think that even Canadians have had their fill, regardless of how they might identify.
Yeah, well, you know, I think 20 years ago or so, Quebec attempted to secede. They wanted to create their own country. And, you know, looking in the long term, it's so different in Western Canada from parts of Eastern Canada that they really ought to break up into several different countries. Even in our country, I think people in Eastern Washington State want to join Idaho because Seattle and that part of Washington State is very left wing,
right?
And they have nothing to do with them. And I think that would be a good thing. It would create a lot less conflict in our country.
That Northern California wants to become the state of Jefferson. I mean, that's been out there for quite some time now. There's also a move afoot in Texas for the Texit movement. I don't know if that has much ground support. But look, these prairie provinces, if Quebec were to secede from Canada officially, I don't know if they could make it economically, but I don't really care either. If they did that, it would break the stronghold and bring those prairie provinces to the United States as, look, I could use 3 new states with 6 new conservative senators. I could use that where I live.
Yeah, or they could just live in peace in their own country up there in Canada, and that would be good for us as well because we'd have a more conservative or libertarian oriented government on our border rather than a gang of socialists like the Trudeau regime.
Right. I think maybe do the majority of socialists live in Quebec? Is that kind of what you're?
Well, they're known as being very socialistic, and when this was going on years ago, they barely. It was a very close vote, 2 or 3 percentage points to
Right.
secede from the rest of Canada, and they wanted to have their own big super welfare state. It would be like Southern California seceding and renaming it Obamastan or something like that. And but if they want to do that, good luck to them. And I
Yeah.
think the rest of Canada would have benefited from that.
Uh,
They wouldn't have been under the thumb of all these the Quebec socialists.
yeah. Well, the Quebec sovereignty movement is still alive. By the way, it's not dead. The referendum was way back in 1995. By the way. But
Yeah, a long
interesting
time
stuff,
ago.
Thomas. Greatly appreciate you being here. We got to keep an eye on those Canadians. I mean, the ones that surround me. Except for I don't care for Doug Ford either. Let me just get that on the table. Dougie Ford, Fat Doug, he can stay up there and bump his gums about cutting off electricity to Michigan, where I live. Except that we don't get any electricity from Ontario in Michigan. I mean, other than that, it's quite a threat. I mean, what an idiot.
Yeah.
Anyhow, thank you, sir.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thomas DiLorenzo, president of the Mises Institute, former professor of economics at Loyola. All right, yeah. Hey, Fat Doug, nobody cares about your threats, all right? Just telling you. We do care about sports with my good friend Brock Paulbush, though. We're going to line that up and have it ready for you right after this.